In a franchise as long-running as Star Trek has been, by the very nature of the beast, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of characters. Now, there's going to be the characters that stand out and that you remember, and there's going to be the rest. And then there's going to be some golden characters, those ones that only appear in maybe one scene, and they leave such an impression that you never, ever forget them. With those characters in mind, I'm Sean Ferrick, here for Trek Culture, and these are the 10 best Star Trek characters who only appear in one scene. 10. Quimp. Our first character on this list is actually one of the newer characters to be introduced to the franchise. It's Quimp the Ferengi, who appeared in the second episode of season 1 of Lower Decks, the episode called Envoys. Quimp, when we first meet him, is the most stereotypical Ferengi you're gonna meet. We're talking Armin Zimmerman, The Last Outpost level of stereotypical Ferengi. He is able to help Boimler get his confidence back, his groove back, if you will. Boimler is able to get back on his feet. He is able to, get one over on Mariner, or so he thinks. And all of this because of one teeth-gnashing, very unpleasant Ferengi who's just there to muck some stuff up until we find out, like a little sub scene. Here I am breaking the rules already, but yeah, a little sub scene where Quimp is not actually who we thought he was, and he's actually a really, really kind of nice Ferengi, and he was just helping Mariner now, but not important. Quimp, Ferengi, we love him. 9, and it's going to be the first of one of Mark Alimo's characters on this list. It's Frederick Lorock. Now, some of you will be going, who? And that would be fair. Some others might be going, yeah, your man. Frederick Lorock is the poker player from Time's Arrow who unwisely goes up against Data in a match. Now, he thinks he's going to get one over on this pale man walking in his pajamas, and instead he loses his waistcoat and most of his money. However, Mark Alimo, as always, commands such presence in the scene. It's the way he speaks, man. But yeah, Frederick Lorock stands out just for this 30-second little scene in one episode of The Next Generation, and for that, we love him. We also love the fact that he quizzes Data on French, and we get to hear Brent Spiner just roll off something that he had originally called a dead language, which was, not the thing you say to your French captain. For our next character on the list, you've got Baylock. Go all the way back in time to 1966. And what this is the character who pilots the Fesarius. So it's the Corbomite maneuver. So this is early Trek. So you might probably remember the image of the green-skinned alien, a la Area 51, who was the first image of Baylock. Well, actually, Baylock is the child who was piloting the Fesarius as a member of the First Federation and played by Clint Howard, who would of course return to Star Trek a few times in DS9 past tense, but also in Star Trek Discovery When You Take My Hand. He is his own ambassador, if you like, and he ends up taking on an ambassador from the Federation. He is full of glee, full of joy. It's an image that all these years later still sticks out in Star Trek history. Number 7, we have Barash. So, in Star Trek The Next Generation, Future Imperfect, we have Riker seemingly wakes up years in the future. He's got a bit of grey in his temples, that's how we know it's years in the future. And he doesn't remember anything that's gone on for the last decade or so, ever since there was an accident on an away mission. He is startled to find that he's in control of the Enterprise, that Admiral Picard is now an ambassador with the Romulans, and wait, who's that kid in his quarters? Barash is a very sad character in a way because he's been left on his own after the Romulans hunted he and his mother effectively to the point of extinction. It's quite a lonely existence, and so he's no villain. He does take Riker prisoner, but it's only because he needs a companion. But that image of Barash in the end with his, asparagus fingers and his, again, little green men face, one of the more interesting alien designs that stands out very much, especially for the sad story that it was. Now, number 6, bringing things up again a little bit is, you might have heard of this actor. He's been in a few things. The Pandari champion from Sunkatse from season 6 of Star Trek Voyager is of course played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This was still very much 90s. The career hadn't quite hit the heights that it's at today. He was still very much associated with, you know, the eyebrow, and he goes up against 7 of 9. Now, Jeri Ryan looks like she could hold her own in a fight, potentially mismatched against The Rock. But she doesn't die, so I say that's a win. Number 5 is Silverin Prin. Star Trek Deep Space Nine really wasn't afraid to push boundaries, and the darkness and the light from the 5th season, now that really pushed boundaries. Kira Nerys is of course, she'll wear it on her sleeve, the fact that she's a former terrorist, and it wasn't afraid to explore that aspect of her character. Here, Silverin Prin is a victim of one of the Shakaar resistance cells' attacks. It's left him crippled, and it's left him really not altogether there. He starts picking off the survivors of the Shakaar cell one by one, but also in a way of teaching Kira a lesson. Kira is of course heavily pregnant with the O'Brien's baby at this point, so Prin, in his twisted form of logic, is happy for Kira to die, but not for the baby to die. Now, he's played by guest star Randy Oglesby, who would come back many times in Star Trek, but probably most recognisably as Degra in Star Trek Enterprise. His command of the scene, it's deeply uncomfortable because, in a way, you should be sort of feeling bad for this character. But in another way, he's committed such horrible acts that in this short scene alone, he's unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. Number 4, Captain Morgan Bateman. I don't know about you, but Cause and Effect is one of the best episodes there is. Now, I don't know about you, but Cause and Effect is one of the best episodes that... Wait a minute, we've done this already. The Bozeman smashes into the Enterprise, you know it, tale as old as time. Thankfully, at the very end, after all of the time loops and the whoop-de-doos and the Groundhog Days, Data realizes, we've got to follow Picard's idea. We've got to push the thing away, not with the tractor beam against the Bozeman, but as we're going to depressurize the shuttle bay, and away the Enterprise goes and everybody's happy out. Well, almost everybody. The Bozeman hails the Enterprise. Up comes the screen, and then, my God, it's Fraser Crane? Captain Morgan Bateman, played by guest star Kelsey Grammer in his to date only appearance in Star Trek. And yet, the cool calm in which he offers help to the Enterprise in that beautiful Sideshow Bob voice. Yeah, he's pretty bloody memorable. He just has a few years of history to start catching up on. Number 3, T'Pau. Amok Time is one of the quintessential episodes of Star Trek. It tells us so much about the Vulcan people, it tells us so much about Spock, it tells us so much about his friendship with Kirk. Obviously, people remember the scene at the end where he realizes Kirk has not been killed, and we get Leonard Nimoy's take on an emotional Spock, as opposed to, and I say this with love, Zachary Quinto's take on who called 4 seconds between the next emotional outburst? Sweet, that's cool. That is not a criticism against Quinto. That is how the character was written. T'Pau, not related to any of that, is one of the matriarchs, if you like, of Vulcan society. Now, portrayed by C.D. Lovsky, she only appeared in this one episode, and yet, in a way, became the archetype, if you like, for a lot of Vulcans going forward. Now, obviously, you have your Sareks, your Spock, and everything, but T'Pau is the Vulcan female until T'Pol comes along. She stands out because through her, there is another glimpse into Vulcan society. Number 2 is one of the very, 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 very few people to have ever played themselves on Star Trek, and this is Professor Stephen Hawking. Now, he appears in holographic setting in Descent. He's playing cards with Data, and he has a great time because he's doing quite well in it. And there's a great anecdote from the set, which is when Stephen Hawking was going through the set, they passed the warp core, and he sort of quipped, "I'm working on that," which I just think is brilliant. But yes, plotting him in the scene with Albert Einstein and Sir Isaac Newton, I mean, these are giants of scientific learning in a show that is very much about pushing the scientific boundaries. It's a very, very short scene. You know, he's not in it for very long. However, it's so much fun. It really is. It's a nice little scene, and it's one of the things that Star Trek is really very good at doing. And number 1 on our list, boom, Mark Alimo is back again as Commander T-Bok, who was the first Romulan commander that we see in Star Trek The Next Generation. Again, cannot praise it highly enough. That man's voice, my God. He's only in that one short scene at the end of the episode. This is the Neutral Zone. It's the last episode of season 1 with that beautiful Romulan warbird design by Andrew Probert. They really mean business. They have such control, but particularly, I think they hired the perfect actor to take on this part, to let the Federation know that the Romulans are here to stay. You're not dealing with anyone else anymore, you're dealing with us. And they have beefed up. It's a great episode, it's a great reintroduction of the characters, it's a great reintroduction of the race. Mark Alimo, I mean, it goes without saying that pretty much everything he ever did in Star Trek, he did with just levels of greatness. Even his Antigone, alright? Nobody talks about him enough. There was no better person to say the phrase, "We are back." That's it for this list, guys. If you think we missed anyone, please drop it into the comments below. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch me at Sean Ferrick on Twitter as well. Guys, whatever you're doing this week, make sure it's a good one. Look after yourselves, live long and prosper, and remember, you are awesome.